It's Thursday, June 15. In the headlines, an update on Jamaica's education transformation plan. School safety policy to be reviewed. In business news, gas prices and diesel prices are up. Regionally, in Barbados, babies, elderly, benefiting from medicinal cannabis use. On the international scene, EU Parliament votes in favor of regulation for artificial intelligence. And in sports, Business House League is on and Guyana well represented at CAC Games. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gill. Jamaica is on an educational transformation journey, and Dr. Adrian Stokes says his team, the Education Transformation Oversight Committee, is finalizing the implementation plan. The committee's chairman gave an update at a press brief Thursday morning. Dr. Stokes says a monitoring framework forms part of the implementation plan,
which is basically a broad-based accountability framework that will allow ETOC to track progress of the implementation effort in a fairly scientific way.
He says they will be working to improve the Education Ministry's capacity to drive the program with an appointed head at the helm. Of course, funding is key.
It will require what I would call a pragmatic approach that assesses the effectiveness of current programs and to assess the effectiveness or the return on investment of these existing programs. And where those programs are found to be wanting, then a common sense reallocation.
Minister of Education and Youth Favour Williams says the aim is to leave no child behind with a transformed education sector. The child should excel in areas that will benefit the nation.
Everything we do is to enable all of our children, every single one of them, to be fully bright. And I'm embracing that term. Fully bright academically, no exception. Able to read at their grade level or higher, no exception. Able to understand what they read at their grade level or higher, no exception. We know that reading is the most important building block, the cornerstone of transforming the education sector. Transformation also means having what we call the 21st century skills, critical thinking, critical reasoning, creativity, and creative thinking.
The transformation plan is based on recommendations outlined in the 2021 Reform of Education in Jamaica report. Parliamentarians voiced their concerns about child protection policies in the laws during this week's sitting of the House of Representatives. Members of Parliament called on Jamaicans with information regarding the murder of 8-year-old Danielle Rowe to come forward. The 8-year-old died in hospital on Saturday, June 10. 3 days after she was abducted from the entrance of Brayton Primary and Infant School in Portmore, which she attended.
We've started the assessment for safety cameras at the school. We know it will not bring Danielle back, but it can prevent or deter another heartless occurrence.
Prime Minister, I know you have your commission with Dr. Herbert Gale, Dr. Maureen Samsvaughan, and others. That commission needs to start moving quickly. And there has to be a bipartisan approach which really now goes into our society. The Social Development Commission needs more money. Our community centers need to be open. We need after-school care. We need more vigilance as parents. We need to understand the psychosocial behavior that people are experiencing. We need more child psychiatrists in this country. We only have 2. We need to incentivize our universities to train more child psychologists to put into our community. We need more guidance counselors from our basic school going right up. We need cognitive behavioral therapy for our young people. Our young people who have ADHD, we need to help them and we need to get and identify it. We need more people to be able to identify those things.
While he did not comment on any specific law relating to child care and protection, Prime Minister Andrew Holness explained that security procedures at public schools will be reviewed, particularly the protocols for collecting students. He noted that at some schools, only pre-approved persons can retrieve a child, but it is not the practice in all schools.
If we feel so terribly about this, if it is a reproach to all of us, then let us do something about it by starting to share information about this case so that the perpetrator can be brought to justice.
During a visit to the institution on Monday, June 12, Minister of Education and Youth Favour Williams announced that closed-circuit television cameras will be installed at the entrance of primary schools. The Prime Minister said that the decision by the ministry is a start.
I support the Minister's position on the deployment of closed-circuit television cameras at the front of schools or in strategic areas to monitor the gate. And I think that is a start. In fact, Madam Speaker, I can say this because we have been discussing this in our National Security Council. The government will move towards, I don't want to use the word mandating, that's too strong a word, but to make it such that all public entities must have closed-circuit cameras at the entrance and exit to their public service space, which will include schools.
Jamaicans should not expect an increase in rainfall levels between July and August. That's the word from Director of the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, Evan Thompson. He gave an update on the country's weather condition at Wednesday's post-cabinet press brief.
With the El Niño developing, apart from it affecting our hurricane season, it is also expected to affect some other weather conditions, because it also usually means that temperatures over Jamaica are likely to be above normal. We have already begun to experience temperatures that are very warm. There are many complaints about how hot it is. Unfortunately, there's absolutely nothing the Meteorological Service can do to reduce the temperature. But what we can do is to advise you that the temperatures are likely to be above normal going through the hurricane season.
Mr. Thompson explained that the recent peak in rainfall was caused by the transitioning of the winter to summer season.
We also heard that there were two main systems that would contribute to how active the hurricane season would be. One of them was the sea surface temperatures in the Caribbean region. That continues to be above average. So the temperatures are warmer than usual, and many of us already know that with warmer sea surface temperatures there is a greater chance of development of storms and hurricanes.
The peak of the hurricane season usually occurs between August and October, with greater frequencies of tropical storms and hurricanes across the region.
We have heard already that the forecast for this hurricane season is that it would be near to normal. I don't know what that means for any of us, really, because if we only have one hurricane produced this year and it occurs in the Caribbean, moves over Jamaica as a major hurricane, it would be nothing normal for us. And so we cannot consider the word normal to be one that allows us to slip into any kind of complacency. Our actions, our preparations cannot be normal.
Against this backdrop, Mr. Thompson is urging Jamaicans to not be complacent in their disaster preparedness. Jamaica has become the #1 Caribbean growth destination for Delta Airlines. The Ministry of Tourism says the growth rate, which also outpaced Mexico, was shared during a high-level meeting on Tuesday with Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett and senior executives of Delta Airlines in Atlanta, Georgia. Senior strategist in the Tourism Ministry, Delana Seavright, says travel data analytics firm Forward Keys indicates that Jamaica currently has 33% more summer travel bookings than it did in summer 2022. It also says the load factor for flights coming into Jamaica is at 90%, meaning most of the airline's available seats have been sold. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has urged parliamentarians to refrain from feuding with the Integrity Commission. The Prime Minister's remarks followed concerns raised by members of Parliament on the Integrity Commission's work and operation.
The concerns raised are valid concerns, but we must always remember that we are the lawmakers, and we have the power given to us by the electorate to change the laws, to make the laws more effective, to make them stronger in the public interest, indeed to make them fairer and just.
He emphasized that the Joint Select Committee reviewing the Integrity Commission Act and the Oversight Committee should increase the pace of their activities and meet more frequently. The Integrity Commission is a commission of Parliament which is governed under the Integrity Commission Act 2017. In the business report, gas prices are up by 25 cents. We'll hear the details and more from Danita Rodney.
Motorists should see an increase at the pumps in the price of gasoline and diesel effective Thursday, June 15, according to latest ex-refinery costs from PetroJam. With both grades of gasoline up by 25 cents, 87 octane will sell for $170.45 per liter, while 90 octane will sell for $173.98 per liter. Up 10 cents, automotive diesel fuel will sell for $165.97 per liter. Ultra-low sulfur diesel will sell for $173.57 per liter after an increase of 25 cents. Kerosene increased by 25 cents will sell for $176.97 per liter. Propane liquid petroleum will sell for $56.37 per liter, down by $1.84, and butane liquid petroleum will sell for $63.29 per liter after a decrease of $2.47. Remember, marketing companies and retailers will add their respective markup to these prices. Newly appointed president of the World Bank, A.J. Banga, says the entity is looking at opportunities to strengthen its relationship with Jamaica. Speaking with journalists, Mr. Banga said preliminary discussions have started with the Finance Minister, Dr. Nigel Clark, regarding possible areas of focus.
The most important thing that came out to me was investing in people. Education, he spoke about education, I would say, not once, not twice, but 4 or 5 times. What he means by education, obviously, is primary education, early stages, but also at the right time, the right kind of skilling for people that makes sense with the job opportunities that should come up in Jamaica. Second thing we talked about was digitization and how we have to work on digitizing not the population only, but also the government itself. And the third part we talked about was the price of electricity and how to find a way over time to bring that down. Electricity at an affordable price is the starting point of development.
4-year market updates in foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, June 14. The US dollar sold for an average of $155.38. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $116.62. The pound sterling traded for $194.83, and the euro sold for $170.17. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 1,861 points. The junior market index advanced by 22 points. The combined market index declined by 1,534 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 1,105 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 105 stocks, of which 40 advanced, 50 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Stocks declined for Barita Investments Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 7 million units, Scotia Group Jamaica Limited with over 4 million units, and Grace Kennedy Limited with over 3 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, zero securities traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the sole security trading 84 shares. In regional business, ExxonMobil's local affiliate, Esso Exploration and Production Guyana Limited, raked in over 500 billion Guyanese dollars in profits from its operation at the end of 2022. Here are the details.
Esso Exploration and Production Guyana Limited, EEPGL, ExxonMobil's local affiliate, has been producing oil offshore Guyana since 2019. At the end of 2022, EEPGL saw an increase in profits. It raked in 577 billion Guyana dollars after earning gross revenue of 876 billion Guyana dollars and spending 239 billion Guyana dollars. Comparatively, in 2021, the first time since entering Ghana that the company recorded a profit, 122 billion Guyana dollars were earned. The company's Vice President and Business Services Manager Philip Retima on Wednesday spoke to reporters after the financial statements were distributed.
We've been here since 1999 and we've been spending and investing since 1999. On our balance sheet are over $2 trillion of assets, and that reflects investments of around 2 trillion Guyanese dollars. Our profits to date, cumulative, are around 600 billion. So we have invested over 2 trillion Guyanese dollars with earnings of 600 billion. So the investments are more than 3 times our accumulated earnings.
Retima also highlighted that the company's profits will be reinvested into expanding operations.
So the assets that you see on the balance sheet did in fact increase by about 1 trillion Guyanese dollars. You can see that in the financial statements. That's an around 80% increase year over year. We don't have projections that I can share with you on 2023, but as I've said, we're committed over the next 5 years as a COVI group to invest another 4 trillion Guyanese dollars. So you would expect, as Payara comes online and in the future Yellowtail, that the assets will increase over time.
A majority of the company's operations are focused on the prolific Stabroek Block, where there are more than 11 billion barrels of oil. Production is also ongoing at the Liza Phase 1 and Phase 2 fields. About 380,000 barrels of oil are being produced daily. Reporting for the newsroom, Vishani Raghaber.
In market data for oil prices rose after a plunge the previous day as data showed a jump in refinery runs in top crude importer China, though a weak economic backdrop capped gains. Brent crude futures were up 71 cents to $73.91, while West Texas Intermediate crude rose 64 cents to $68.91 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, babies and elderly people are among those in Barbados benefiting from the use of medicinal cannabis products to treat their medical issues. This was revealed by Director of the Barbados Drug Service, Miriam Carter-Hines.
Sometimes a child could have fits up to 200 times in a day. But with this medicine, it's reduced to either 1 or 2, and the children can lead normal life to what they previously had. And for the elderly, seizures as well as there's for not wanting, Barbados is a very small country. There is an ex-commissioner of police from another territory, not from Barbados, a lady who perhaps is in her 80s or almost 90s. She uses it for her arthritis, and with it she is as good as anything, and she can bear she doesn't feel any pain, I should say.
We have approved an additional 9 licenses for 5 more licensees, right? So those licenses, I want to just give you a range. That will cover cultivator, tier 2, 3 cultivators at tier 1, 1 processor, 1 import license, 1 export license, and 2 retail distributor licenses. It's about 77% local ownership, 15% local or CARICOM ownership, and 8% are local and international ownership.
In the Bahamas, the Department of Immigration has repatriated over 2,000 irregular migrants so far this year. The figures coming from Immigration Minister Keith Bell as he contributed to the 2023-2024 budget debate.
For the first 4 months of this year, Madam Speaker, we would have repatriated more than half of all of the irregular migrants we did for the entire last year.
My Lord.
That is significant. It is also very, very mind-boggling because of these trends. It means then, Madam Speaker, that in this budget, we have put $1.9 or so million for repatriation exercise.
Now, he says if these trends continues, he says the department will have to seek cabinet approval for contingency
funds. Persons were from Nicaragua, Italy, Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic. We've never seen this before. And so, Madam Speaker, I had a meeting yesterday with the United Nations Human Rights Commission. I also had a meeting last week with the International Organization for Migration, and they have sought to partner with us to ensure that these trends, where we see a mixture, a divergence of nationals from various countries.
Guyana is leading the Caribbean community's efforts to boost food production and trade within the region. As more regional and international business players are being wooed into investing in food and security, Guyana's agriculture minister said a major exposition will be hosted locally in October.
International investors are invited to explore the opportunities to invest in areas across the entire agri-food value chain in the CARICOM region. Coming out of the agri-investment forums held in both Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, we have seen the growing interest of international investors to invest in the agri-food sector. And here again, I want to invite as many investors as possible to the intended agri-exposition that we'll be having in Guyana in October of 2023. In light of the Caribbean's financial need, which as far back as 2020 was more than $10 billion, the region is open, fostering partnership with both regional and international financial institutions and investors to address the concern of food security and the threat of climate change. From an investment perspective, the CARICOM region's huge food import bill can be seen as a unique opportunity for stimulating production in the region and ramping up cross-border investments in targeted agricultural enterprises.
In international news, the European Union has come one step closer to having the world's first law regulating artificial intelligence. It aims to ensure AI systems are safe and ethical, and that tech companies comply with rules. Al Jazeera's Natasha Butler reports.
Artificial intelligence is rapidly changing our lives, which is why EU lawmakers say regulation is essential. Voting in Strasbourg, MEPs approved an AI bill that, once ratified by member states, could become a landmark law by 2025.
And it is adopted. Congratulations. It took how many hours, days and nights? It will still take for your hard work and for having found a balanced and human-centered approach to the world's first AI Act, legislation that will no doubt be setting the global standard for years to come.
MEPs say AI can be a force for good in everything from fighting climate change to education if the systems are safe and ethical. Under the proposed law, they'd be categorised according to risk. The higher the risk, the more rules. But systems deemed to pose unacceptable risks or curtail freedoms will be banned, including facial recognition in real time in public places. Companies breaking the rules could be investigated and face penalties.
There might be situations where there will be infringements that companies would not be either providing the necessary information or they would simply, with the applications, infringing the rules under the text, and that's when penalties could apply, and they range from taking the product off the market, prohibiting certain applications from the market, all the way to fines that can go to 7% of the revenue of the respective company.
Because AI is developing so fast, it has been challenging for EU policymakers to try and find the balance between protecting people's rights but continuing to support tech innovation. Too much regulation in the EU, says this tech entrepreneur and French government advisor, could lead to an AI brain drain.
The risk of regulating too much is to see all the key players moving to the US, for instance. And it's a big risk. I can tell you that I've spoken to a few teams, the most advanced in France, and they're really considering that if the law is too strong, that they would move out of Europe.
In sports, PetroJam faces RJR Gleaner this weekend as the Kingston and St. Andrew Business House Football Association's 11-a-side competition returns from hiatus. The tournament, which was on break since the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, will get started at Winchester Park in Kingston with a dress parade at 1 p.m. before 2 games. The first game kicks off at 2 p.m. with Jamaica Fire Brigade taking on Motordade. Then PetroJam faces RJR at 4 p.m. Over 60 athletes and officials will represent Team Guyana at the 24th Central America and Caribbean Games 2023 in El Salvador.
The top brass of the Guyana Olympic Association on Tuesday afternoon summoned the media to a press briefing and meeting at its Liliendale headquarters, where the entire contingent was announced for the June 23rd to July 8th Games. There, the athletes and officials were reminded of their responsibilities and obligations as members of Team Guyana and as ambassadors of the country. There will be 16 days of competition in which athletes from 37 countries will compete in 53 disciplines.
I know going to these games will be it's a very competitive games, and from this end, the Olympic Association end, we always speak about managing expectations, but ensuring that you do of your best, be good ambassadors. We know that we face difficulties, but we're a resilient bunch, and we can lead by example as good patriots and ambassadors. So the expectation is for you to do of your best, support your teammates. And, if we get medals, then that'll be the icing on the cake, but do your best.
I hope that you display good mannerisms and you uphold the standards and the requirements that have been outlined by Dr. Karen Pilgrim. So, best wishes on behalf of the Guyana Olympic Association, just to expound on President Monroe's utterances. So, what I'd also like to inform you is that based on new protocols that we have implemented at the National Sports Commission and the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, all traveling athletes and officials are required to meet with the Honorable Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport. The reason for that meeting is because in recent months we've had a bit of a setback with the CRIFTA team, and we would like to meet to establish any difficulties or challenges you may have going, and just to give you reassurance that the Ministry and the National Sports Commission are always on standby to assist you in any way.
And that's the news on PBCJ. Remember, you can follow us on our social media platforms at PBC Jamaica, because we are the People's Station.